Man the Shore Summit is a opportunity for the community at large to come and learn about the best ways we can support our Black and Brown boys in school. And also is a way for us to come together to understand how do we make sure that we can recruit, attract Black male talent in the field of education here on the Eastern Shore. And so it's an opportunity for outsiders, community members, leaders, and people to really see what is it going to take to move the needle and to move us closer to the center and away from the margins in terms of how we are achieving and the careers that we take. And not only just the careers that we take, but specifically the education pathways of teaching that we take.
Well, welcome everyone again to Their Story, How They Make It Happen. This is the podcast where we talk to people who are movers and shakers in the community, who are making things happen for the community, in the community, and trying to help out in the community. Today, very special guest with me is Dr. Richard Warren. He is an award-winning educator, currently a Hazel Professor of Education at the University of Maryland Eastern Shore. He's a director of the UMES Men of Color in Education. I could go on and on. 2019 Maryland Teacher of the Year, inducted into the UMES Hall of Excellence, travels the country speaking to people about education, about educators, about retention, recruitment of educators. So, Dr. Warren, thank you very much for joining us on the podcast today.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
No doubt. Well, the reason we have you on today, in addition to all your accolades, is the fact that you have a very special program coming up on April 3rd here on the Eastern Shore of Maryland. It's called the Man the Shore Summit. Tell us a little bit about Man the Shore Summit and why you decided to do this.
Yeah, Man the Shore Summit is an opportunity for the community at large to come and learn about the best ways we can support our Black and Brown boys in school. And also is a way for us to come together to understand how do we make sure that we can recruit, attract Black male talent in the field of education here on the Eastern Shore. And so it's an opportunity for outsiders, community members, leaders, and people to really see what is it going to take to move the needle and to move us closer to the center and away from the margins in terms of how we are achieving and the careers that we take. And not only just the careers that we take, but specifically the education pathways of teaching that we take.
Right. And you have two parts of this summit. There's a first session and then there's a second session.
Yes. In the past, so each year we do it, it evolves because I see a need. Mm-hmm. And I listen and I see and I hear. And so initially it started out as just a summit panel discussion where we brought in some experts and leaders from the field and people heard their insights on how to create spaces for Black and Brown boys and how to create spaces for Black and Brown educators. Now it has evolved into two components. The first part is the Ascend pre-summit. So we're not just talking about what's needed. We're actually creating a space on campus to develop middle school and high school boys, specifically with a special emphasis on our Black and Brown boys. And so we have sessions on personal identity and manhood, leadership and responsibilities, life skills mastery, finances, and emotional integrity, right? And so we are not only, again, just talking about it. I have people who are experts, who are men of color, actually teaching them these skills while they're here. And essentially, we're creating a rites to passage type of thing where we are putting our words into action. And so that's the first part.
Right.
And the second part is still the summit where the community and outsiders can get a sneak peek on what's necessary to move us closer to the center.
One of the things that, we see not just in our system, but all over the place is there is the lack of the Black male teacher in school. So that's some of the things that you are trying to address with this summit, correct?
Correct. There is less than 2% of the education workforce are Black men or men of color in education. And so naturally, I think for young men, they become what they see the most. And what they see the most and what is really recognized in their face a lot is either entertainment or athletics. And so I kind of want to change that narrative and say, hey, you can be more than just an entertainer. You can be more than just an athlete. You can be a business person, entrepreneur, and an educator, right? And so a lot of it is just like reshaping that narrative that Black boys, Black and brown boys have intellectual capacity to lead in other areas. Yeah, for sure. So that is definitely the gap that we're trying to close.
Yeah. And you know, it's interesting because when I was coming up, which was back in the 60s and 70s, that's where a lot of, Black males went into was education as teachers. My dad was a teacher. My brother became a teacher, but so many people in my neighborhood were Black men who were educators. One or two things that you think that we need to do, and I think you're going to be doing it on this April the 3rd at the University of Maryland Eastern Shore in Princess Anne. Some of the things we need to do to get the kids to say, man, teaching, that's a great profession.
Yeah, I think each one reach one. I think for those Black males who are in the field already, who I bring on the shore, we plant the seed early. We see a kid who can run fast. Oh man, you could be a track star. We see a kid who can shoot a basketball really good. Oh, you can go to the NBA. Or I'll
Right.
see a kid who has good communication skills, good leadership skills, love to help people. Oh, you can be an educator. So
Mhm.
planting the seed early, and then also creating a space for them to explore education. A lot of times these young men, when they look at the teaching profession, it's not attractive. And when they look around their schools, they're like, I'm just trying to get out of here. I don't want to have to deal with, I got to deal
Right.
with, I got to deal with this environment, so the conditions that some of them are in are not conducive enough to attract them into the profession.
Mhm.
And I don't know about you, nobody wants to return back to the scene of their trauma. And so
Right.
essentially we have to create spaces for them to be like, hey, just because this was your experience, it doesn't mean it has to be your teaching experience. And so
Right.
giving them opportunities and spaces to actually see what their impact looks like. For example, I have a program in the summer called the High School Teacher University. 3 weeks, they take a class in teacher preparation and they go out into the field and they're paired up with mentors of color, teachers of color, professors of color. And we walk them through and they interact with students. And before you know it, they see how the students gravitate towards them. They see how the students call them Mister, right? And they start to understand that, hey, maybe this isn't as bad as I think it is. And we give them an outside perspective of not only it might not be as bad as you think it is, but also you could be an answer to your own problem. And so I
Okay.
think it starts with that.
So this event's coming up on April 3rd. It's at the University of Maryland Eastern Shore. Tell people watching this how they can become involved in this event.
The first way you can be involved is come, listen, learn. Listen, learn, and then you can formulate a plan. Second, the way you can get involved, we always are looking for ways to be able to put these either high school students, get them to college, and then once they get to college, to get them through college. And so we have a given page that I'll send the link over. You can give to the program and give scholarships. I talked about the High School Teacher University. I mean, there's so many different ways that you can give, even if it's not like action based, even giving your resources. If you know somebody who's a great educator, you know somebody that has connections that we can create spaces for these young men. Those are the ways that you can get involved immediately. Come, listen, plan, give, and connect us to resources.
All right. Well, before we wrap this up, anything else you want to talk about as far as getting more blacks and browns to become teachers, or anything else you want to promote?
Yeah, I always like to preference this when I talk about this. Um, what's necessary for some is good for all. The research is clear. The more diverse educators you have, the better outcomes it is for all students, not just students of color, right? Research suggests that having one Black male educator in the classroom decreases student discipline, increases student chances to get to college, and so on and so forth. And so I think if we truly want to move the needle, it's going to take us all. I don't want to give the impression that this is just for Black and brown people to show up.
Right. Right.
Actually, we need all allies. Actually, we need every type of person from all walks of life to come to this because it's going to take a tremendous effort. If we look at the field of education, and we already know that less than 2% are made up of Black men, that means other population, other races, other walks of life are making up the field of education. And those
Mhm.
people are the decision makers, they're the game changers, they're the curriculum creators, they're the resource getters. And so we want everybody to kind of come together to figure out this problem. And this is a problem. Again, this is a problem that's not just on Somerset County, it's throughout the nation. We
Yeah.
have a teacher shortage. And so why not begin to think about ways that we can grow our own, harvest our own, and take care of our own so that we can reduce not only the gap between Black males in the classroom, but just the gap of having so many teacher vacancies. And
Yeah.
so this is for all of us to do. And I want everyone to try to get their hands in it and listen and learn.
Well, Dr. Richard Warren, thank you very much for this program. I'll post the information for people to get in contact with you, or where they can find out more information, or if they want to partner and be, possibly give some financial assistance with the program as well. But we really appreciate all you do in the community. Being a future Maryland or former Maryland Teacher of the Year, now what you're doing at the University of Maryland Eastern Shore, really, really appreciate all you do. So thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. That
Yep.
means a lot. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Well, it's called the Man the Shore Summit. It's coming up on April 3rd at the University of Maryland Eastern Shore in Princess Anne. And of course, we'll have more on your screen where you can get in contact with. But we appreciate him being a part of their story, how they make it happen, this podcast, which happens every week. So, folks, until next time, have a great one. And we'll see you at the Man the Shore Summit coming up on April the 3rd. God bless.